Welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm Hannah Blackwell, and today I'm going to be sharing with you all of my favorite monster romances. So this video is in collaboration with Ava from Ava's Romance Reads. She is one of my absolute favorite romance booktubers, and I am so honored that she said yes to doing this collaboration with me. If you do not already subscribe to Ava, you definitely need to, especially if you are into fantasy romance, monster romance, alien romance. She has a lot of amazing recommendations for what I call speculative romance. So basically anything that is like fantasy romance, paranormal, monsters, aliens, anything that is otherworldly at all. She just has all the best recommendations for those types of romances. I just read a book on her recommendation, and it was probably one of my favorite, if not my absolute favorite romance I have read this year. I will save that book for my upcoming wrap up, so you can tune in for my next Thursday reads and you'll hear all about it. But I read that book on her recommendation and I adored it. She just has the best, she has the best recs. So go check her out if you don't already subscribe to her. She's going to have her own video with recommendations for monster romances, so make sure to check it out if you want some more recommendations for some awesome monster romances. And then I'm going to have my own list right here. I think I have 9 books I'm going to be talking about, and I think it's 2 novellas, and the rest I think are full-length novels. I could be wrong, but I think it's that. I think I'm going to start with the novellas, but if you don't already subscribe to my channel, I would love to have you do so. All of my social media is linked down below in the description, including my Goodreads, Instagram, and Twitter. Do not forget to click the like button, comment down below, and let me know what your favorite monster romance is. Give us all the recs because we all need them. The first recommendation I'm going to be discussing is Green-Eyed Monster by Elsie Winters. I read this last fall and absolutely adored it. It is the cutest, sweetest little orc novella. We have this like forest sprite or garden sprite, I can't remember, but she goes to the same school as this big orc. Something kind of disastrous happens at the school and he whisks her away. And they kind of develop a cute little romance, and she teaches him a few things, he teaches her a few things. There is one super sexy, spicy scene in this book, but other than that, everything is really sweet. So you do get some spice, but it is also a really sweet book with a cinnamon roll of a giant orc character. Definitely recommend this one if you really like those sweet monster romances. I just thought this one was a real treat. Okay, next on a different kind of vein, a much spicier, taboo, kind of dark vein, we have The Ogres Pet by Cassandra Cross. Now in this book, we have our heroine who is running away from this really creepy dude that she saw at this bar. I believe that's what happened. And she knows not to go into the forest because the forest is where there are all sorts of dangers and there's a monster in the forest. She knows she needs to avoid the forest at all costs. But the one thing that pushes her into the forest is when she was running away from basically being assaulted by this really super creepo dude. And so she runs in the forest, and who does she find but a giant ogre. And this ogre takes her, and she is a prisoner to this ogre, and things get spicy. I think the best part is honestly like the attitude change and how dark our heroine gets at the end. It gets dark. Like, this is very anti-hero, and it's not like bringing someone to the good side. It's like making her dark and bad. So this is definitely, check your trigger warnings, but this is definitely a darker monster romance, and it is super spicy. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about this book only because I guess you could call it a novella. It is less than 200 pages, but the other 2 books I talked about were more like novelettes. I think they were both in the maybe like 50-page range. But this book is under 200 pages. It is Katie Roberts' The Dragon's Bride, and this is a dragon romance. It's the first of a series in which Katie Roberts talks about these different monsters. Each book follows a different monster and a different woman who has been sold off to spend, I think it's 5 years with that monster. So basically these women are from the human world. They sign up. They have such dire circumstances that they sign up to have whatever they want in the real world for their future, but they have to spend 5 years married to a monster in this other realm. And so they sign up for this. This is consensual. They sign up for this, but they also have certain protections. So they can't be harmed by this monster. So they have a contract that is signed that it protects both individuals. It's all very consensual. And but they do know and sign away knowing that if they do have a child, it does stay in that realm. They cannot bring it back to the human world. The first one follows Briar Rose, which I love her name, and she has had it really rough. I think that she's been in like an abusive relationship, and because she's trapped in this marriage, she decides to do whatever she can to get out of it. So she decides to go and sign this contract, and she goes to this other realm, and she gets married off to this dragon, and he is really, really sweet. He is yet another cinnamon roll. There is something about like a super dangerous monster that's also like a cinnamon roll on the inside that I love. I love that trope. I like it with aliens. I like it with like mafia. I like it with a lot of things where I don't like someone that's like all the time cinnamon roll, but I like it when they're like a secret cinnamon roll. So yeah, he's a secret cinnamon roll. Anyway, his name is Soul. And he really wants to have a kid with Briar Rose because that will bring magic back to him and strengthen him and his land's magic. And it will make them and his, like the Dragonlands, more competitive against the other regions in this realm. And also, I just have to say, I freaking love this cover. This cover is everything. I love the whole monster romances going for the like historical clinch cover. That is a trend that I'm obsessed with. Please don't ever stop this trend. I mean, it's newer. It's becoming more popular, and I feel like Katie Robert kind of started it, or maybe she was just towards the very beginning of it, but she definitely did it the best. And now we're getting more covers like this from people like Sia Masca and Lillian Lark. And I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I thought this book was really cute. It is super steamy. If you are looking for a monster that has some different parts down there, this might be a really good one for you because there's two. They have to get a bit inventive. Things get a bit interesting. Luckily, he has this super magic salve that heals all. But yeah, if you want a short, sweet, spicy time that is just fun, definitely check this out. Unfortunately, I haven't been as big a fan of the rest of the books in the series. I DNF'd the Kraken book, and then I think I gave 2.5 or 3 stars to the Gargoyle book. And that one was fine. It didn't have the charm and the fun and the sweet and the character development that this one had. I think this book has had the best character development in the series so far. Okay, so next let's talk about possibly my favorite monster romance of all time. Why do I not own this book? I don't even know. But it is Titan by Gillian Graves. This is a gargoyle romance. It is a daddy dom kink. There is this baby girl, this sugar baby. She basically is having to make extra money being a sugar baby to rich men. And she catches the eye of Titan, who is a gargoyle, while he is basically doing his job protecting this secret room with this secret artifact in it. And it is his job, along with his like co-protector gargoyle people. They're like the bodyguards or the security guards of this secret room with this secret artifact. He sees our heroine on a date and he just has to have her. So he signs onto the Sugar Baby website and requests a visit from her, and things go from there. I adored this book. It had the ultimate best spice. It had some different tropes that I really like the whole daddy dom, the I'll take care of you, I will get you what you need, just lean on me, that kind of thing. I really liked the spice in this book as well. Plus, I thought that the plot was really fun. I liked the suspense at the end as well. And I just thought overall this was a really, 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 really cool book. Next, I have a Why Choose book called Ravaged by Monsters by Katie May. I have read the first 2 books in the series. The final book in the trilogy is not out yet, but it will be soon. This is a dystopian monster Why Choose romance. We have 3 or 4. We have 4 monster like lords. These are like the highest up ranking monsters in this world, in this dystopian world where monsters have taken over humans. and now humans are kind of on the run and or being basically enslaved and used by monsters. And these monsters are really cruel, except for these like head honchos, highest ranking monsters, these four, like, they're basically co-kings, and they see our heroine, who has been captured on this trip to go find pharmaceuticals for her, like her group. She has gone to try to get pharmaceuticals and supplies for them, and in the process she's been captured. She gets sold off. She gets sold at this auction, and this is when the four kings see her, and they all realize immediately that she's their mate. And so the story goes from there, and it's kind of crazy. There's a certain character in here that really pisses me off, and I'm sure he'll piss you off too, but he just kind of pisses me off. It's like, get over yourself, dude. But there's some really good humor in this too. I liked the banter and the friendship between these monsters, and I liked the strength of our heroine as well. She was like a strong chica. She really stood up for herself. She was strong. She's a warrior. Like, she can really take care of herself. But the spice, dude. This book brings the spice, like 5 on the spice scale for sure. There are some scenes in here that are like, what? What? Next, I have another favorite of mine, and that is Morning Glory Milking Farm by Sia Masca. This is one of 2 books on this list by Sia Masca. This is the first one I read by them, and this is a story set in Cabrick Creek. We basically have our heroine who really needs a job. She's kind of down on her luck. She applies to be a milker at this milking farm in Cabrick Creek. She knows in Cambric Creek, this is where most of the monsters live. There's a lot of monster businesses, and just, it's a large monster community. And she gets there, and she knows what this milking farm is all about, but she just doesn't know what that means really necessarily, or the details. She gets her tour, and she's told and shown what she needs to do. And when we talk about a milking farm for minotaurs, that's what we mean. It is what you think it is. This product that she milks, it actually is used, I think, in like a lot of, like, I don't know if it's, I think it's like the medication. I think it's like basically Cambric Creek or this world's like version of a little blue pill. This is a romance between our heroine, who becomes a milker, and one of the minotaurs who comes into the business to be milked. And it is actually really sweet, even though it sounds kind of creepy and weird. I don't know, not creepy, but it definitely, I know, it does sound eccentric. Let's say eccentric. It's eccentric, but it's also super sweet, and it is spicy, but it's also really sweet. The Minotaur, who is the hero, is also a cinnamon roll, very gruff on the outside, intimidating, but a cinnamon roll. He's very sweet. And yeah, I liked it that, like, I don't know, there's a lot of things about this I liked. I really want to continue on the series. I just haven't yet because, I mean, if you look at my TBR, you know, like my Goodreads TBR, I think it has, yeah, probably almost 900 books on it. That's a lot. But I would like to continue on in this series. It's a priority for me. I really would like to. So definitely recommend if you haven't already. If you have been intimidated by the theme or synopsis of this book, hopefully this review might help you a little bit to know that it's also quite sweet. I don't think it's as eccentric as it sounds, though I know some people think that it's even more eccentric, so I don't know. I guess it's a matter of perspective. Next, I have a book that I'm sure you might have seen on some people's like fantasy romance TBRs or paranormal TBRs. I consider this paranormal and monster because the hero in this is a demon. He's got a forked tongue. To me, if the anatomy is, you know, monster-esque, which a forked tongue to me is monster-esque. So anyway, this is Her Soul to Take by Harley LaRue. This was a super spicy, 5 stars, amazing, amazing, dark, dark romance time. This book gives ultimate fall vibes. It definitely reminded me of Twilight in terms of the atmosphere. And we have this girl who basically, she has this YouTube channel where she is like a ghost hunter, and she wants to kind of get more hardcore with her ghost hunting. She moves back to the town she grew up in, and she starts going to school there. Things start to get weird. There are witches, there's a cult, and she accidentally summons a demon. And this romance is a romance between her and said demon, and things are very dark. There's a lot of CNC in this book. Definitely check your trigger warnings and check the kinks list. There's a lot of kinks in here. Like I said, CNC, there's blood play, there's just a lot going on, so check that out. I absolutely adore this book. I thought that it really just gave really awesome, like, witchy, monstery fall vibes. Next, I have another Sia Masca, and this one I read recently when I buddy read it with Maggie from Maggie's Books and Stuff, and this is How to Marry a Marble Marquis by Sia Masca. This is a historical romance meets monster romance, yet another gargoyle, and I actually have a whole lot of gargoyle books on my TBR too, so I think I have a thing for gargoyles. I don't know. Do you like gargoyles? I do. We have our heroine who, she has basically made a mess of herself in society's eyes, and she's not going to be able to marry in the regular high society, so she has to go to the monsters ball and try to find a husband there. She doesn't know anything about the monsters etiquette, and so she gets some help from her, I don't know who it is, her father's friend's friend or something like that. A friend of a friend? She gets a help from a friend of a friend, and it's this gargoyle who is a marquis, and he gives her lessons on how to seduce a monster, and those lessons get spicy, let me tell you. I love a good lesson. I do. And so I thought that this also really brought some good Bridgerton vibes. There are society papers in it where there are intros to the chapters that are from like the society papers, which I really liked. It also, just in general, had a tone that was Bridgerton-esque, very kind of funny, quirky. There was a lot of quipping. There was a lot of fun dialogue and banter as well that I enjoyed. Like is usually the case with Sia Masca, this book is quite spicy. They kind of get to it fairly quickly, but I really like that. Sia Masca definitely doesn't do any kind of like slow burn in my experience. But I liked it. I thought it was super spicy and fun, and yeah, I want to read more Sia Masca. What can I say? Finally, we have a book that you have probably seen on a few different people's monster romance recommendations, and that is A Lady of Rooksgrave Manor by Catherine Moon. I have read a couple of Catherine Moon books, and I've always enjoyed them. I've always thought that the spice level was right on. Like, she writes super spicy books. Sometimes I feel like they're a little bit long. I think that is the case with this book as well. But the content is fun, and you know, if you want to skim the last 50 pages, you skim the last 50 pages. But I had a good time with this book. This follows our heroine who is extremely ready to go, shall we say. She has trouble keeping a job because she is so ready to go, which is not okay in the society she lives in. So this is very historical. I don't know when it takes place. 1700s? I don't know. But she basically gets a job at this Rooksgrave Manor after she meets Catherine Moon's version of like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. And he gets her a job there because he knows that she'll be happier there. And there she gets to create relationships with monsters and make a living from that relationship. So she ends up with a group of monsters. I don't know how many. At least 5. It's a lot. And there are all kinds of monsters in this book. But there is like a sphinx, there's a berserker, there's a vampire, there is I don't know what you call him, but he basically turns to stone, but he's not a gargoyle. Things get spicy. There are a lot of fun group scenes in here as well. And it's just all about these monsters pleasing their woman. If you haven't read a Catherine Moon, I definitely recommend it. So there you have it. Those are all of my recommendations for monster romances. I love to read monster romances, and if you do too, don't forget to check out Ava's monster recommendations. The video will be linked down below in the description along with her channel. If you haven't already, don't forget to click the subscribe button and click the like button if you liked this video. Comment down below and let me know what your favorite monster romance is. All of my social media is down below in the description, including my Goodreads, Instagram, and Twitter. Until next time, fellow readers, keep reading and living your best life.
Look away, but I've known you too long. It hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away.